My personal thought is no, it's not that. It's covering your ass, because while he has institutional
Okay.
investors, he also has a following mostly of college age and young professional kids and some high school kids.
Yeah.
They are not Zionist for the most part.
Yeah.
They're willing to hear voices like mine and take it seriously. And those voices are becoming so loud, and they're embarrassing Charlie
Yes.
because he has to continue to promote God's chosen people and all of these platitudes rather than actually answering the hard questions.
Okay.
So to
Okay.
me, Tucker is going to some degree, ask questions about Israel. Okay. Dave
Okay.
Smith is Jewish.
Yeah.
And I'm not taking away from their voice on this, but they are going to, the best example is Tucker. Tucker's going to say everything he says and then follow that with, and I love Israel. I take my family to Israel. I love Israel.
That's
To
exactly
me,
right.
it's a smart play for Charlie, because if he just completely ignores it with his audience, they're going to turn away from him, because they're going to be like, you're an idiot. You're lying. Just come on. We've got real questions. So he's throwing a bone, maybe a couple of bones, quickly getting back to his own messaging, though. If you've seen his recent stuff, very hardcore pro-Israel, pro-Zionist again. All right.
Yeah.
So he allowed a little bit in the door. So it's somewhat a 4D chess, but for his own benefit, not necessarily for the truth.
I got you. Okay.
Yeah. And
I think you're totally right. I think you're,
it's,
whereas in my mind, gosh, I was giving him maybe a little more credit than he deserves. I think you're totally right. It's for his own benefit. And it's almost because he knows his audience is going to call him out and probably leave him if he doesn't do some of that stuff.
Here's the difference. If he had Dave Smith or Tucker, or let's just say Tucker Carlson or Jeremy Slayden on his show. First of all, if he would have had me, he would have had a way better following at the event. Lots more people would have signed up.
Absolutely. And a much better billboard, Jay Slay USA. That
you got it. Yeah. We would. No, but Tucker's going to say we should ask the questions. We should have free speech, even if it's about Israel. Now let's go love up on Israel some more, but also, like, let's make sure we don't kill Palestinians needlessly, even though he's got no power to change that.
Right.
Where I would say Israel did 9/11. Here's why.
Yeah.
And does this mean we should be going to war with Netanyahu right now? Like,
yeah.
So what Charlie's doing, and a lot of them are doing this, and it is 4D chess to a degree. They want to put caps on the outsides of the debate we're allowed to have. So here's Charlie and Officer Tatum and others. Here is Megyn Kelly and maybe Marjorie Taylor Greene and some others, which, again, I'm proud of them for what they are saying. But it's like, okay, here's the end caps. So anything outside of that discussion is verboten. It's forbidden. You're crazy if you're outside of this paradigm.
Okay. All right. So I'll tell you who's outside of that paradigm, and let's see if you can guess. I think you can. The one guy, right? Nick Fuentes. Dude, that kid is a problem. He is a problem. And I say that's what the young kids say about, like, really good basketball players. They'll be like, LaMelo Ball is a problem. Nick Fuentes is a problem for all of them. And I would love your thoughts on him.
Yeah, probably the most intelligent geopolitical thinker of our times. And he's 26. Like just leave it there. Right. And it's because he started at, 16, 17, 18 years old. He was one of the young members of the UN, whatever that is, where you're learning about geopolitics. And he was, if you watch I actually really appreciated the part on his Candace interview where she gave him 15 minutes to fully lay out his past, because I didn't know it. And I'm like, okay, I've always wondered, like, how he knows this much about, like, all these, like, who the vice prime minister of some random country was in the 80s. Like, how do you know that?
Yeah.
Well, this was his passion since he was a teenager. So it would be like me learning the nuances of baseball and the baseball swing. And I could talk for hours about these things that other people are like, what? Unless you're a player, why do you even care?
Right.
Well,
right. Absolutely.
He's been a player for a long time. Now, along with that are some other things you have to swallow that may or may not be agreeable. He's full on Catholic and believes that Catholicism is the way. while he's not going to deny my Christianity, but he's going to say, really, Jeremy, like, if you want to go all, you need to be Catholic. That, he just say,
what is that? What does that mean? Like if he says you need to be Catholic, what is it that you're not doing as a Christian that he's doing as a Catholic?
Yeah. Well, an easy one, I can't answer all of that, but an easy one would be he calls the Pope, he believes the Pope is very important. He calls the Pope the vicar of Christ on earth, which I guess that means like the image bearer. I think we are all image bearers of God. We are all, so my view of the Vatican, the Pope, that hierarchy, that they give papal authority equal weight with scriptural authority, or at least close to, no way. No way.
Got it. Okay. So, that's a great example, because I do think the Pope is in the middle of the Catholic religion, whereas with Christianity or other forms of Protestant denominations, I don't think the Pope plays as vital of a role. And I don't know about Orthodox.
Yeah. Well, we don't have to get into all that, but I brought up, there's other things you've got to swallow. If you're going, you don't have to swallow it. I would say take the good, which his geopolitical analysis and his unwavering, unfearful perspective and approach toward international elite Jewry and what they are able to accomplish tribally around the world, and where it's a problem.
His ability to articulate that as a 26, I think he actually just turned 27, a 27-year-old kid is insane. It's insane. Scott Stevers said he's a generational talent. He's like, someone like Rush Limbaugh. I never listened to Rush Limbaugh, but the way Scott put it, he's like, Rush could go and Nick can go. I mean, that kid will do a 3-hour rumble, which I don't think is edited very much at all. And he's doing that on a daily basis. I mean, I think it's insane. I think the knock on him 5 years ago, during maybe COVID, when he was on this Clubhouse app and a few other things, was that he was a total white supremacist and all that. I don't even know if that's true, to be honest with you, because what's interesting to me right now is I see a ton of Black people supporting the shit out of him. Even Latinos, everyone's supporting the kid. He's a problem for these guys.
And that, to be honest, and that changes you too. And I think it's probably, like the Hodge twins really like Nick and they laugh with him.
Yeah.
They know that Nick 100% believes that a majority Black nation is not going to fare as well economically, intellectually. He'll flat out say it. The Hodge twins will be like, a lot of people hate you for that, Nick, but I can't argue with it,
I know.
And then they both laugh. That helps Nick change too, I think, to a degree.
Yeah.
But Nick would also tell you that, just like in 100-meter sprint, it's almost always all Black guys in the Olympics, almost always.
Yeah.
Occasionally there's a really fast a white dude that makes the cut, This is going to be a crude example, but you flip that into nation building and stuff like that, or into, are people going to be on par with Nick intellectually? Probably not even on par, but able to hold a conversation. Yeah, of course, Candace Owens can hold a conversation with him and the Hodge twins. And now Candace doesn't like him and she tries to distance herself from him for this reason, because his white supremacism, nationalism. But the problem that he is in that is he's able to back up his points very well.
Yeah.
And so it's hard. And if you come from the very nice, the very cultured, even hard right Christianity, which is not supposed to be all nice, when it comes to racism or we just had it so beat in our head that racism is like the worst sin. And of those, the anti-Semitism is the worst of the worst, to the point where you can struggle with all these different things in your life. And you're not going to be, in fact, you're going to be considered honest by talking about your problems or at church, right? Or saying I struggle with this or whatever. But if you're a white nationalist or a supremacist or whatever, that's going to get you blackballed or blacklisted pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And to be fair, I think part of that is because with those other areas, you're acknowledging it's a problem. He's not acknowledging that it's a problem. He's saying, no, I'm just being honest. And I do agree with him. He had a great line the other day. He said, people try to, like, Marjorie Taylor Greene is saying all this truth now.
Yeah.
Okay. But she's framing it as it's not anti Semitic to question or even disagree with the secular nation of Israel. Okay, true enough on its face, but what is she actually saying? What is that? What does that even mean? Because the truth is, it is a nation built around a certain people group and a certain religion, and it's been they call it the Jewish state. It's been unapologetically that.
Right.
So the thing is, anti-Semitism is a word that is used and been used for decades to beat people down from having any questions. And we're kind of done with that. And the more important question is not, is this anti-Semitic? It's, is it true?
Yeah.
Because if you could say I'm racist for pointing at murder statistics between whites and blacks, and that there's been much higher percentage of blacks murdering whites than vice versa,
and
they'd
blacks
say
murdering blacks.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
but you're gonna have less white people murdering black people than the other way around. It just is what it is. And I get the anti-racist crowd would scream from the rooftops that me just saying that on a show is highly racist and that I should be banned and canceled and all that. Same thing goes for anti-Semitism. It's not me saying the USS Liberty was an attack on our own naval ship by the Israeli government and covered up by the Zio-controlled politicians in America. It's not whether that's anti-Semitic. Is it true? And if it's true, then we've got a problem to solve here.
Yeah. Okay. Gosh, it's almost like, and I'll ask you this in the Christian community, like, is racism considered worse or anti-Semitism considered worse?
Oh, anti-Semitism.
Really?
Even though they mean the same thing.
Yeah. And when I say racism, I'm talking about against black people. So is it like worse to be mean to black people or mean to be to Jewish people?
That's the thing, and the people will disagree. Very rarely in my whole life, being surrounded by Christian circles, do I find normal church-going Christians being mean to black people. Like, it just doesn't. Yeah. As a matter of fact, most nice church-going Christians are scared to death to offend black people, especially during the BLM era, where they're walking on eggshells trying to like make sure they don't say the wrong thing.
Yeah.
So this idea, like, which is worse, being mean to black people or being anti-Semitic?
Yeah.
What Christians would tell you is all of that is wrong and sinful, but on the one hand, you are being racist against God's chosen, so that's got to be worse.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. You know what I would say to that, and I want to get your opinion on this. I think Christians absolutely would feel that way about black people, about Jewish people, uncomfortable at offending them. But it seems like a lot of them have no problem offending Muslim people or offending brown people. You know what I mean? Like people from the Middle East. And I don't even blame them. You know who I blame? I blame this 20, 30-year unbelievable propaganda that has made Muslims the enemy. And by the way, I think it's kicking up in high gear again. I think after a nice lull, you had 9/11, you had the war on terror, weapons of mass destruction, Islam's the enemy. I am seeing it fire up again from guys like Charlie Kirk, from Officer Tatum, from all these guys who are basically painting the Muslim world again as the enemy. They're refiring up the 2001 neocon playbook and the Project for the New American Century and all of those neoconservatives, whom, by the way, I'm just learning now, they were all gigantic Zionists. And I'll tell you, Nick Fuentes connects those dots incredibly. It's amazing.
Absolutely. Was there a question in there?
I don't think there was a question in there. I think that was
because I agree with you. I'm glad you brought up the Project for a New American Century. That was one of the key moments leading up to 9/11 to get us involved in this 20-year, forever war, and to paint all Arab nations as the enemy and the Israeli state as America's outpost, and they're our shield. And if they don't stop them, all the Muslims are coming here. Interestingly enough, Orthodox rabbis will call Islam the broom of Israel, and they don't mind open borders in Britain, the UK, Sweden, the United States of America. That's why a guy like Alejandro Mayorkas, who was the head of the Department of Homeland Security, had an open border for so long. He's Jewish. And, the broom of Israel. We don't mind if other countries are muddy and weakened. As long as they're paying us and supporting us, they can remain weak, because we are going to have our capital of the world, as the first Prime Minister, David Ben-Gurion, said, out of Israel. And there will be a one world standing army, one world government, one world police force, and a hall of the prophets right here in Jerusalem. It will be the capital of the world.
Yeah. Here's an interesting question.
Want the full truth? Watch the full Deep Shallow Dive interview next. And hit subscribe if you're done with narratives and ready to call a spade a spade.